guys, my name is, I just forgot that. My name is Jessie and I'm a content creator here at Plaid. And I'm super excited to be showing you how to make this really cute Hey Boo pumpkin today using supplies at Michael's. So it's been a while since I've had the chance to teach a Michael's class. So I'm really excited to be here and really excited to show you this project because it's one of my favorite pumpkins that I've made this year. As always, like Chanel said, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And we're going to have Stephen here from Plaid who's going to read them out loud to me as you ask them. So make sure you interact now and let me know if you have any questions or if anything's confusing to you, if I can re-explain something a little bit clearer for you. I'd love to be able to do that. So I'll go ahead and let you guys know what supplies we'll be using for this class today. So just like the listing said, we've got these two pumpkins from Michael's. I believe this is 11 inches and 6 inches. And they come cream colored and they also have the orange version. I like the cream colored ones because it's much easier to paint on to kind of start with that more blank canvas. So I've got two of these here and these are probably my favorite pumpkins to craft on. These are so awesome. They're inexpensive. They're lightweight. They last for many years to come. So these are the surfaces we'll be painting on today. And then of course, since we're here at Plaid, we're going to be using our favorite paint, which is FolkArt matte acrylic paint. So the colors you'll need today are titanium white, licorice, tangerine, daybreak, lilac ice, pink frosting, minted aqua, and conch shell. So if you've got similar colors, we're just gonna be using kind of a pastel palette today. If you've got something different, that's totally fine. If you don't have pastel colors and you just kind of have like your regular standard array of FolkArt colors at home, feel free to add white to those and that'll lighten them up and you'll get this pretty pastel palette. Because like you guys been seeing as much as we have, pastels are super trendy this year for Halloween. I've been seeing so many cute pastel, mantles and front doors and things like that for Halloween with pastel skulls. And I just think it's so fun. So that's why I'm excited to show you these pumpkins today. Then we're also going to need some wood letters. So Michael's has a really great variety of wood letters. So there's lots to choose from. I linked the ones that I used in my original pumpkin here. I have slightly different ones today, but it's the same idea. And then we'll need brushes too. So I believe I put a Craftsmart brush set, the 7-piece variety set on there. But what you'll really need is one large-ish brush for base coating. So this is a 3/4 inch. You'll need a smaller flat brush for making some of these like wispy patterns. And then you'll need a large and a small round brush as well. So as long as you've got just like a nice little variety of brushes, you should be good to go. I've also got, as always, something to put my paint on. I've got a paper plate here. I've got my paper towels and I've got some water to clean my brushes as we go. And then I do have a hair dryer here just so we can kind of keep it in the time limits and we can get those layers on the pumpkin without having to wait too long for drying. And then the last thing I have is a hot glue gun, which I have plugged in here. And that's what we're going to use to put our letters on at the end. So if you have like tacky glue or something, that's great too. Mod Podge even will work. But just so it's quicker, I've got the hot glue gun plugged in. So before we start painting, Stephen, are there any questions?
No questions so far. Jen and Sandy wanted to say welcome back to you, and I think they've alluded that they would like to see you come back to Monday night paint nights too. So. Oh
yes. Oh, I'd love to come back to Monday night paint nights. The reason I've been gone so long is because I was having a baby. So I've got a little baby at home. So Mondays are a little tricky because I've got to get home to him. But I definitely plan to. I definitely want to start doing some more Monday night paint nights because those are my favorite. You guys know those are my favorite classes to teach. I've always had so much fun with you guys. So thanks for welcoming me back. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So let's get started. We can start with our smaller pumpkin here and kind of let it dry. So the color, all we're going to do is base coat this in minted aqua. So I'm going to grab some minted aqua. I'm going to grab the largest of the brushes that I have for base coating. And I'm just going to do a nice even coat on this pumpkin. And whenever you're base coating, I think a lot of people tend to just, want to be impatient and just kind of glob that paint on to get it over with, which I totally understand. But it really will help you in the long run if you just do a nice thin and even coat, just enough to cover the pumpkin because it'll dry more evenly. You won't have to worry about cracking or the paint getting gummy, but also it'll just dry more quickly, which is really nice when you're crafting. So I recommend doing a nice, even, smooth coat, like I said, just enough to cover the surface, which is really easy to do because we're using this cream colored pumpkin, which is going to be really easy to cover. and we're using FolkArt paints, which have awesome coverage. So it'll just be one coat and done for this guy. This is probably one of my favorite FolkArt colors. I love all the pastels we have, but Minted Aqua, it's just like the perfect, like light bluish green color. It's probably my favorite. We've got a few good, like light greenish blue colors, but I think I like this one the best.
So Jesse, we have a question from Jen.
Okay.
I couldn't find a white pumpkin, but I got an orange one. What should I do? Cover it with white first?
You don't have to cover it with white first. You can just go straight on with the Aqua. It may take a couple more coats than we're doing here, and it may save you in the long run to do a white coat just because white has such good coverage, and then do the Minted Aqua on top. Either way, you're most likely going to be doing at least 2 or 3 coats. So it kind of just depends on what you want to do. Either just do a couple of coats of the Minted Aqua, or you can definitely start with white and then do the Minted Aqua over that.
Good to know.
Yeah. So we're almost done. You can see how quickly it goes and how great this coverage is already. It's already absolutely perfectly covered. So that's why I always love to use FolkArt paint, because it has the best coverage. Okay. All right, so we're gonna set him aside and kind of let him dry. So all we did was just base coat the smaller pumpkin in Minted Aqua. We're gonna let him dry on the side here, and I'm gonna clean my brush off. And now we're gonna start on our larger pumpkin, the one that says "Hey Boo," but we're gonna start by making this really fun and loose, colorful pattern in the background. So we'll kind of do it one color at a time. I'll switch so you can kind of get a better view so you can see it here. So it's kind of like this pretty, like wispy, just sort of soft brush strokey pattern, which I think is really fun, and it's really easy to do. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. I like to start with my lighter colors whenever I'm doing something like this where it's layering, because then I can go back over with my darker colors and fill in the gaps, and it's easier to kind of overlap. If I start with my darker colors and then go back over with my lighter colors, it's the same thing we talked about with the orange pumpkin. It's just going to be slightly harder to cover. So always start with light and then go dark. So that being said, I'm going to start with my conch shell, which is this pretty warm light pink color. And my pumpkin. I'm going to grab my big flat brush. You can use the largest flat brush, or you can use the smaller one for this step. It kind of is up to you, depending on how big you want your areas to be. So I'm going to pick up some paint, and you just want to start in one patch, and you want to go really loosely and quickly up and down, 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 almost like your base coating, but you want to make it kind of a little more random than that. And you want to have really irregular edges. So we're kind of going to go over this first layer, so it doesn't matter as much, but you can see here, it's kind of tough to see because it's so light, but I have really loose, irregular edges. And I'm going to do a bunch of patches of this all randomly around my pumpkin. So I don't want to make it, a really structured pattern. I don't want to look like I've put too much thought into it. We want it to be really random and organic looking. So just loose. And again, it's going to be really easy to get coverage with this FolkArt paint on this white pumpkin. And if you have an orange pumpkin, you may want to base coat this one white first. That may just kind of help you out in the long run, since we're doing multiple colors. So you don't have to go back and do multiple coats of each color, because that might be kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm just doing random patches. I'm starting with kind of bigger areas because then I can overlap them more with my darker paints later. And you can kind of do as much or as little of each color as you'd like. It kind of is just really preference. If you love pinks, you can go hard on the pinks. If you're more of a blue person, you can go harder on the Minted Aqua. So you can leave colors out, of course. You don't have to do the exact same colors as me, but of course you're welcome to. So it's kind of your preference, what colors you use and how much of it.
Is the idea with this, Jesse, to put contrasting colors next to each other?
You definitely can, absolutely. That would really make it pop. So what Steven means by contrasting colors are colors that are really opposite from each other on the color wheel. So like warm colors next to cool colors, like purple next to orange, and yellows next to blues and things like that. So You definitely can do that. The only problem you may run into is if you are layering the paints wet on wet, which means you haven't dried the paint under it before you start painting on top of it. If they mix, they will get kind of muddy. So that is the only problem. But if you dry in between, you won't have that problem. It'll just layer on top of each other, I should say. If you kind of stick with similar colors next to each other and you're painting wet on wet, they'll blend together and you'll get a really pretty look, which is probably what we'll end up doing here just for time's sake. I'm probably just going to keep painting wet on wet. But yeah, that's a really good question. It can kind of go either way. It depends on the look you're going for. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and keep going with my like lighter colors to start. And then, like I said, go into our brighter colors. So next I'm going to grab some of our Daybreak, which is this nice pale yellow.
So Patty says that their conch color looks sort of iridescent and they're wondering if it will stay that way.
Oh, iridescent. That's cool. I don't know. I don't know why yours would be iridescent. Is it mine that it just looks like that in the light because it's kind of hitting the light and shining?
It could be. We have really bright studio lights on Jessie right now.
Yeah, that might be it. But if yours is light at home, I don't know if you're using a different brand or a different formula. But I don't know the answer to that question. That sounds kind of neat though. So again, I'm going where I don't have pink for now, and we can overlap, but just keep in mind, we have a lot of colors that we're going to be putting on this pumpkin, so we can kind of worry about that later on. Right now, we're just trying to get all of the white covered, and we're keeping our edges really loose, kind of wispy, lots of fast strokes and kind of brushing on and off the pumpkin to get those really loose edges. And you can do as much yellow or as little yellow as you like. I love yellow. It's my favorite. But I know not everybody does. So if you like, yeah, less yellow, feel free to only do a little bit. That's fine. And like I said, we can do a little bit of overlapping here if we want. The yellow and the pink will blend really nicely together. Of course, if you mix, pink is a variation of red. So if you mix yellow and pink, you'll get like an orangey color, like a salmony color. So that will be pretty. Just kind of, you can kind of hear the sound my brush is making. That's kind of what you want, that wispy brush stroke where you're kind of picking your brush up off as you're doing the brush stroke, and that's how you get those really feathered edges. Okay, so that's probably enough for the yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rinse my brush. So here's really where it comes back to Stephen's comment earlier, where he talked about doing the contrasting colors. So I said we're going to start light and keep on going up. So next, the other light color I'd probably go from here is this Lilac Ice, but this is a cool color on the color wheel, and we just did a warm color. That's the yellow. So if this were to mix with the yellow, we'd probably get kind of like a beige color, which is not necessarily what we're going for. So we have two options. You can either dry your pumpkin now so you don't have any of the colors mixing, or we could just avoid the yellow colors and kind of work around those as we're painting these patches on. So I'm going to do the second one. I'm going to kind of work around the yellow just so we can keep things moving and try my best not to let the yellow and the purple blend, because that will make a color that we won't want. So this is Lilac Ice. So it's okay if it blends with the pink. That will be pretty, but we are going to try to stay away from the yellow patches with this color. You can do large patches or small patches. It's kind of up to you. We want to make sure we go right up to the stem too. We're going to paint the stem a solid color later on, but we do want to make sure we don't leave any of that pumpkin showing next to the stem. And I'm trying to stay away from the yellow. If your yellow is already dry, which is definitely possible because we're using acrylic paints and so they dry super quickly, then feel free to just layer over the yellow. But if not, like I said, I would recommend trying to avoid the yellow for now with the purple. Okay. All right, so I think it's enough purple for me. I'm gonna rinse my brush off. Any questions, Stephen?
I think we are caught up on questions, but if you guys do have any, don't hesitate to ask and I will relay them to Jessie.
Yeah. I love to hear from you guys. This is one of my favorite things about Michael's classes, that I get to interact with you. Because when we're doing other live streams, as fun as they are, you know, we don't get to really like teach and talk to the people who are attending a class. So this is why I love Michael's classes so much. Okay, so next I'm going to do this darker pink, which is pink frosting. So it's slightly darker than this. It's like pinkier, if you will, than the conch shell. So I'm going to go ahead and do some of this. Like a bubble gum as opposed to that like peachy pink we did earlier. And this one should be fine to kind of overlap with all of them. This one will look nice with the yellow, with the purple, and with the pink we've already done. So you don't really need to worry as much about this blending with any of the colors that are still wet on your pumpkin. This is a good one to kind of fill in some gaps if you need to. I'm still doing that really wispy motion, kind of blending and getting that really feathered edge. Yeah, almost like a watercolor effect when you do it this way, this pattern. It's really soft, pretty blended pattern. So let us know, guys, if you've painted pumpkins already this year. I'm sure you have, because I know, you know, Halloween is rapidly approaching, which we are so excited about. We would love to hear what you've crafted for Halloween. If you guys have made door signs or carved pumpkins even, let us know in the chat, because I love to hear from you guys what you guys are making. We're excited here at Plaid on Halloween. We have a costume party and we are also having pet day on Halloween. So that should be interesting. We did it last year. We were all dressed up in the office with our dogs. So it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it again.
It was a lot, but it was a good time for sure.
Yeah. It was definitely a little chaotic, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Last year, our team dressed up as the Addams Family, which was super fun. And this year we're dressing up as characters from Harry Potter. So I think it's going to be good. Okay. All right. So I've kind of got most of my pumpkin filled up now. If you guys don't yet, that's okay, because we still have a couple more colors to do. But I kind of just took that pink and used that as an opportunity to just sort of get full coverage on my pumpkin. But like I said, we have a couple more colors. So if you don't have full coverage yet, that is totally fine. All right, so next I think I'm going to go, I know I said go light to dark. I think I'm going to go with my tangerine, because this one will blend nicely with a lot of the warm colors we have. And I'll save my minted aqua for last, because I think I might dry my pumpkin before I use that. And the reason I'm going to do that is, like I've been saying, that cool minted aqua color is going to be kind of make kind of a grayish muddled color with these warm colors, where this tangerine is just going to layer really nicely. So I'm going to do my tangerine now, and then we're going to save my minted aqua for last after I give it a good dry.
Sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm. Using a lot of tangerine apparently. And I love this pop of tangerine because in my mind, it's kind of like it's kind of pastel-y, but it's kind of like a brighter pastel. And I love that it gives a little bit of orange, because that just makes me think of Halloween. All right, so I'm gonna focus on the warmer colors. I'm gonna try not to layer over my purple, because orange and purple are not gonna be friends on this pumpkin. And I'm not gonna do a ton of the tangerine because it's so bright and I wanna keep my pumpkin a little softer. I just want a few pops of it.
Yeah, it almost kind of makes it feel like some of the pumpkin is like peeking through all of the paint.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a really good point. If you want to leave some of your pumpkin peeking through, if you did end up picking up one of the orange pumpkins at Michael's, that might work too. This is pretty similar to that pumpkin color. It's a good idea. You just want to make sure you keep those edges nice and soft. You can get the bottom too. I kind of always end up forgetting like the bottom edges of my pumpkins, because I'm just like looking at it from the top. So don't forget about that bottom edge. Right, I'm gonna do a little down here, I think. Okay, and I think I'm happy with that. I like the way my pumpkin is looking. It's got the kind of watercolory look I'm going for. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna clean my brush off first. Always clean your brush off because you never want acrylic paint drying in there. And then I'm going to dry my pumpkin with the blow dryer, and then we will move on to our last color, which is Minted Aqua. So I'm gonna do that now. Okay, so it's dry enough. It's not totally dry, but it's dry enough where it's not that these colors aren't going to blend when I do the Minted Aqua. So let's go ahead and do that. Same brush, I just cleaned it off, and I've already got some Minted Aqua on my plate when we base coated our smaller pumpkin. So I'm just going to go ahead and use some of that. Do a little bit here and there. And the reason I wanted to make sure to include the Minted Aqua is because if you guys are going to display these two pumpkins together, this will kind of tie them together. It'll look nice with your our little leopard print one that I'm going to show you how I did. So that's why I want to make sure we don't forget the Minted Aqua on this guy. So they kind of are a little pair and go nicely together. All right, I'm going to do a slightly bit more. I think that's probably enough for my Minted Aqua. Okay. So last thing for this pumpkin before we like kind of skip to the next step and then come back when it's dry is we do want to paint the stem. So I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I'm going to use pink frosting to paint my stem. But you can use any of the colors that you want. You don't have to use pink frosting. It's totally up to you. I just like that one best. So same brush, I'm going to grab some pink frosting. You might need a couple coats since since the stems are brown when you buy them. It might take a couple coats just to get that dark color covered. And I'm just going to go ahead and get at least one coat on there for now. Check it all those little crevices. Okay, and I got a pink stem. Again, rinsing our brush. And we're going to set this one aside for a little while we work on the other pumpkin, just so we can get it nice and dry, because you never want to glue anything onto wet paint. You're just asking for trouble if you do that. Because if you glue anything that's wet, it A, isn't going to stick, or B, it's just going to pull the paint off that's still wet. So to get a nice, good adhesion, we're going to let this dry fully, and then we will work on it later on in the class. Okay, so I'm going to bring back this little guy that we base coated in the beginning with our Minted Aqua, and I'm going to show you how I did this cute leopard print. So leopard print is another super trendy pattern this year for Halloween, Christmas, all the seasons, summer. Especially, I thought it was really cute in pastel. I thought that was a fun idea. And it might be kind of, intimidating to do leopard print, but it's actually super duper easy to paint. The key to painting leopard print is to get that really random brush stroke, which just you have to think less about it. You have to think less, you have to put less pressure on your brush, but it's much simpler than you may think it is. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did it. So the colors you'll need on your palette, if you want to do yours like mine, are the Lilac Ice and Tangerine, but you can do a different combination if you want. So I'm going to grab one of my smaller flat brushes. So this one here is a number 12 flat, but something that's like a 1/2 inch flat that looks similar to this should be fine. And I'm going to pick up some of my Lilac Ice, and I'm going to make just little brush strokes of color all over my pumpkin, and that's where my spots are going to be. So I'll show you really loose, a brush stroke like that, a brush stroke like that. I'm pressing down a little bit so it's kind of rounder, but it's really just the length of my brush. See that there? Really easy. Don't overthink it, because the more you think about it, the harder it's going to be to paint this really organic looking pattern. So natural patterns really should be, you know, you should be holding your brush more loosely. You shouldn't have to think about it too much. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that's what's going to make it look more natural when all is said and done. I'm getting them kind of evenly spaced, but you don't want them to be, you know, perfect. You don't want them to be like in a grid pattern, because like I said, just like I mentioned, that won't be organic looking. We want it to be pretty random. So I think I'm happy with that. So I'm gonna clean my brush off. Everybody doing okay, Steven?
Yeah, we're doing good.
Good. So I'm gonna hit this with my hairdryer real quick, because we're gonna layer our orange on top of it. And like we mentioned on our first pumpkin, orange and purple are not going to be friends for these pumpkins. So I'm going to go ahead and dry it. Okay, so that should be dry enough. It's not perfectly dry, but it's dry enough for layering. So for this next step, I'm going to grab my larger round brush. So this is a number 12 round. So this is the brush we're going to use for the second part of our pattern. So I'm going to pick up some Tangerine, and let's do a practice actually on our, I've got some palette paper here that I'm working on. If you've got paper or a napkin nearby or paper towel or whatever, let's do a quick pattern, or a quick practice, I should say. Okay, so I'm going to do kind of a circle, and we'll pretend like our little purple spot is right there. I'm going to do a circle around it. I'm not going to close the circle, and I'm going to vary the pressure I put on my brush. So what I mean by that is I'm going to do maybe like a C. It'll be random for each one. And I'm going to start with little pressure. I'm going to push down, pull up, push down, pull up, push down as I go around. So I'll do one not on the dot. So I'm going to put very little pressure. And as I'm taking that C, push down, pull up, push down, pull up. So you get a variation of pressure. So it looks very random. And we don't want a perfect C like that, because that's not how leopard spots look. It's a little bit more, you know, like I keep saying, it's a little more organic than that. So you can do one to the right too. You want to make it really random. Push down, push down, push down. Something like that maybe. I even did some where I did a, you know, little line on top and then a line on the bottom. And it's always going to encompass that purple dot that we already made. So we're going to follow what we've already done and make really random patterns like that. And like I said, the key is changing the pressure on your brush, whether you're putting very light pressure and getting a very thin line, or you're putting very hard pressure and you're getting that thick line. That is how you're going to get that variation in all of your leopard spots. So I'll show you here on our purple dot. So I'm going to start with like the first one we did. I'm going to go very lightly, push down, pull up, push down, pull up. You can go back and touch it up if it's a little, you see that little leopard spot? And then I'll do one here to the right. Push down, pull up, push down to get these really random brush strokes. I'll do one on top and bottom. Push down, pull up, push down, pull up to get these, this kind of the second layer of our pattern here. So you just want to make it nice and random. You don't want two dots to be the same. And again, we're just changing the pressure on our brush as we're making this pattern. And that's going to give us a really believable leopard print. A lot of times I like to pull up when I'm doing a pattern like this, I'll pull up, leopard print on my phone or whatever it is that I happen to be painting, plaid or, zebra, whatever it is that I'm painting, just to make sure that I'm kind of like, sometimes you can just like look at it for so long, you're like, is this even what leopard print looks like? So it's nice to have a reference sometime, just so I can make sure that I'm kind of on track and my plan is going according to plan. I'm just making random lines around it, changing the pressure of my brush. So no two spots look the same. And the less you think about it, the better for things like this. That's how you're going to get that really organic and random shape. If you think about it too hard and you try to make each one perfect, it's not going to look as realistic. Okay, so hopefully you've ended up with a really cute and really simple leopard print. And you can really use this technique for, any color palette. If you wanted to do a pumpkin that's a realistic print using tans and browns and, warm colors, absolutely, this will be the same exact technique, just using a more realistic palette. So you could do a black and white leopard print, make it like a snow leopard. It's totally up to you. But this technique really should carry over for any time you're trying to print, paint something with leopard, which is super duper trendy right now. So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and paint my stem with that pink frosting, the same one we painted our bigger stem with, just so they match.
I think this 4-color combo that you've chosen for this particular pumpkin is like my favorite. I just think the colors work really well together and it looks great.
Thanks, Steven. I love doing like unexpected color palettes for, seasonal crafting. For example, you think of pastel when you're doing Easter. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, soft colors for Easter, we know. But I think it's really fun, like I said, to do unexpected palettes like pastels for Halloween. You may not think of that, or maybe you do because it's all over Pinterest this year, but I just think that's really fun to do. It makes it more exciting. Okay, so now we've got our cute little leopard pumpkin here. So we're gonna set him aside. And next, I guess I'll give everybody just a minute to make sure you're caught up and make sure everybody's good. Ask any questions now if you have them before we go ahead and start painting our letters. Okay. All right, so I've got my BOO. These are wood letters. Like I said, Michaels has a really great variety of craftable letters. They have big ones, small ones, all different fonts. So these are slightly different than the ones I cited, the ones that I originally used, just a little bit different, but it's, like I said, it's gonna be the same idea. So I'm gonna grab some of my titanium white and put it on my palette because I am going to paint these letters white. I'm just gonna use one of my smaller flat brushes to do this. Nothing fancy here. We just want to make sure that we start with some white letters. Want to make sure you get the edges. You don't have to worry about the back because we're gonna glue it onto the pumpkin, but you just want to make sure you get the front of the letter and then all of the edges with a nice even coat of white. Has anybody commented what they're crafting at home, Stephen?
I don't think they have, but yeah, let us know what you guys are crafting for Halloween for this fall season. And let us know what you or your kids are gonna be for Halloween. That's gonna get
Yes, I would love to hear that. Great idea.
like we said, we're gonna be Harry Potter characters in the office this year. Our whole department is doing their part and finding a character they want to portray. Dressing up as them.
It's gonna be a blast. We have lots of fun here for the holidays, that is for sure.
And personally, I don't think Jesse or I are too old to be dressing up for Halloween.
Definitely not. Absolutely
No.
not. The older you get, the more fun it is because you have the means to do it.
Yeah. Now, if we went trick-or-treating on the other hand, we might get looked at kind of funny, but
That's true, but we're not doing that. So we're just coming to the office.
well, you have a baby now, Jesse. So I mean,
I do.
you have an excuse again, you know?
That's true. I am
Yeah.
going to take him trick-or-treating, not because obviously you can't eat candy, but I'm going to go with my nieces and we'll take him along in his costume. Okay, so those are white. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna dry them with my hair dryer so we can paint our pattern on them. Try not to blow them away in the process. Those are dry. Like I said, acrylic paint just dries super duper fast. All right, so now we're gonna paint this cute sort of modern like dashed line pattern, which is super easy to do, but I love, love, love the way the black and white looks in contrast with all these soft pastels. I think that's super fun and super trendy. So I'm gonna put some black on my palette. And we're going to, like I have a small brush here. I have a number 6 round, but if you have like a liner brush at home, you can even use a paint pen for this or like a permanent marker. If you don't have a small brush at home, that works too. So I'm going to load my brush. You never need a whole lot of paint when you're using a small brush like this. The smaller the brush you have, the less paint, of course, you should be putting on it. You can see I have it loaded. And by loaded, I mean the amount of paint I put on it, about halfway up the bristles. So you don't need a ton of paint. If you glob paint onto a brush like this, you're going to get really thick lines. So if you have less paint, you can kind of control the size of your lines and the shape of your lines a lot better. So only a little bit of paint. You can even, offload, as we call it, onto your palette if you have too much. And we're going to fold our letters. I guess I'll put them in order. And we're going to make vertical dashes on it. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll start here, I guess. I'm just going to pull down in little dashes to make this cute little black and white pattern all the way covering up the surface of our letters. Like I said, this really stark pattern with this really, contrast of colors, black and white. It's the most contrast of any colors. This is going to look really cool with our soft pastels behind it. It's really going to pop. Going on all the letters here. Got my last letter. And these don't have to be perfect either. They're so small. As long as they're fairly evenly spaced and your brush sizes and your thicknesses are pretty consistent, it'll look really tidy once we go ahead and put it on our pumpkin. They don't need to be perfect though. Okay, so I'm going to dry these really quick because now we're going to glue them onto the face of our pumpkin. I don't want them to be wet, so I don't want to smear them. So really quick, I'm going to dry them. It'll just take a second. So that should be dry. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hot glue them to the surface of our larger pumpkin. So you want to make sure that it's really dry. Mine is nice and dry. If you've got any wet spots, you want to hit those with a hair dryer because you do not want to glue these wood pieces to a wet area. Because like I said, it won't stick and it'll just pull the paint off. So just save yourself the trouble and make sure it's nice and dry before you glue them on. So I'm going to lay it sideways. I guess, never mind, or not. I'm going to very carefully turn my letters over and just dab a few areas of hot glue. You don't need to cover the whole thing. You just need enough so that it tacks on. So just be really careful when you're doing this. Whenever you're hot gluing, especially tiny shapes, you want to make sure you're super careful. But like I said, tacky glue, Mod Podge will work too. And I'm going to go kind of low on my pumpkin because I want to leave room for the hay part in my hay boo. So there's my bee. Just hold it down until it cools. Sometimes I'll even blow on it just to cool it down quicker because I'm an impatient crafter. All right, now I'll do my O's. Like I said, it doesn't take a lot. Oh, and my last letter. And of course, you could do any phrase. I thought "Hey Boo" was cute. I love that Halloween phrase. I think it's like kind of funny. But you could do your name. You could do initials on it. You could do hello. It's totally up to you. Whatever goes with your decor. And then the last one, I'm gonna push down on him. All right, and then the very last step for our Hey Boo pumpkins is painting on the hay above the boo. So like I said, you can feel free to use a small brush with our black FolkArt paint, which is of course what I'm gonna do. If you have a permanent marker at home or a paint pen, you feel more comfortable doing that, feel free to do that as well. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna load my brush up. And whenever I am trying to center something or trying to make something even, I try to start in the middle whenever I can. Sometimes it just is more of a headache than it's worth. But for this one, I have 3 letters in the bottom, I have 3 letters on top. So I'm going to start with my E in hay. So that way I can do my E, make sure it's in the middle, and then do my H and my Y on either side. And I know it's going to be centered as opposed to starting with my H and then ending too short or going too long and it doesn't look centered when I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with my E. And I'm going to do these really like skinny, tall letters that are super trendy. You can do any kind you'd like. You can do stencils if you wanted to. And then I'll do my H to the left of it. And then my Y to the right of it. And there we've got our Hey Boo pumpkins. All right, Stephen, that was the last step of our class. Do we have any questions before we finish up?
No last minute questions. I think people have just been enjoying watching along and learning these techniques.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you joining us today. I hope you learned something and I hope you were inspired and had fun. Don't forget, if you decide to make these pumpkins or use any of our products, make sure to hashtag Make It With Michaels and hashtag Plaid Crafts. And that way me and Stephen can see all of your beautiful creations. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you all soon. Happy Halloween, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.